There you go. So thank you all for coming. Again, my name is Letícia and this is Vinicius. Today we're going to talk about how we can move from just data reports to a little bit of data impact and how we can shift the way we perceive, and we talk about data storytelling within the ESG context and scenario. So we're going to introduce both of our companies. Our companies are both Brazilian, and some of us have recently migrated and have started working in Europe as well. And there's a lot of opportunities and challenges here for us. So I'm just going to get started. And if you have any questions, please let us know in the chat. At the end, we're going to stop recording and we're going to have a little bit of a workshop for us to get to know each other. So again, this is me and this is Vinicius. We're both from two different companies, and last year Vinicius approached us because having worked in this area for a long time, he understood that there was a lot for us to accomplish together. So we joined forces. And that is because, as a lot of you know, specifically publicly traded companies, both in Europe, but also around the world, will have to disclose their sustainability related information. But not just that, I believe that a lot of these companies are starting to realize that they don't have what it takes to do that. We're talking about at least 15,000 companies and investment funds in Europe, and around 3,000 of these in Brazil. And I don't think that they realize that they need to start collecting, organizing, and preparing for that scenario. But more than that, also, for us as consumers, this means that we have an opportunity to actually ask ourselves if this is greenwashing, or if they are walking the talk. So this is a very important moment for us as consumers, but also as companies, to be transparent and to have social and environmental data communicated in a way that truly communicates, sorry for using that word twice, but truly communicates the values of the company and all of the efforts that have been put into all of the different social and economical impact that the company have. So Odd and Decah got together. We're going to explain what that is right now. And Vini, please take the stage is yours. Explain a little bit of why we're here and why we started this partnership.
Thanks, Letícia. Nice to meet you. My name is Vinicius. You can call me Vini. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Decah. Decah is a Carioca B Corp since 2014. We're fostering collaborative behavior to catalyze social innovation. And in the last 10 years, as a B Corp, we understand and practice in our operations the assessments as B Impact Assessment in the next slide. We are one of the pioneers of these movements in Brazil. And this year, we're going to make our third recertification processes in the BIA assessment. This is very important for us to practice a lot of coherence, to practice and to understand these cultural influences of these assessments for us, but to our clients too. On the next slide, we can see in the last 10 years, we have a lot of experiences working in different segments of the society, working with startups, big corporations, NGOs, institutions, and governments, to understanding the approach of engagement of multiple stakeholders as a way to co-create impact strategies. So we use our excellence in ESG to foster a unique approach depending on the culture and the challenge of our clients. We have a proprietary methodology called Joyas, who is like journeys of innovation on social and environmental approaches. And on each project that we have, we aggregate specific expertises on a multidisciplinary approach. So this specific moment that Brazil and Europe are dealing with the same regulation processes and the same convergent assessments create us an opportunity to collaborate with Odd to understand the both learnings between the two realities from Brazil and Europe too. And we have three good examples on how we use with our clients this multiple stakeholder approach to organize and to create storytellings about their impact strategies. So the first case that we have, it's that we applied with Itaú. Itaú is one of the biggest banks in Latin America, 100-year institutional history, and we help them to integrate their communication platform on the agendas of sustainability, ESG, and private social investments. We united almost like 170 collaborators from Itaú from 63 different areas to create a common language and a common positioning on these three major agendas. Here at Decah, we love to create some strategic artifacts, and what you're seeing on the screen, it's a compass, a strategic ESG compass that we co-create with Itaú, organizing their better stakeholders, their stakeholders that they privilege on their relationship, understanding what are the projects that they have to each one of the private stakeholders that they have, the vocational part of how they organize themselves in their agendas, and how they can organize their impact indicators too. The second case that we have was helping the first B Corp in Brazil who opened their capital, clear sale, to facilitate the recertification process that they have. Besides the processes to open an IPO here in Brazil, clear sale asked us on Decah to help them to make the second recertification process with a better data management this time, to help to distribute the responsibility to create the fulfillment of this assessment with other areas of the company too. And in our third case, we have a beautiful collaboration between Globo, Unilever, and UNESCO to help to co-create engagement strategies to fostering the culture of donation here in Brazil, to help projects that are dealing with the necessity to protect the youth in Brazil to their access to education. Criança Esperança, it's like a telethon or a childhood's aid program here in Brazil, one of the biggest projects that they have fostering this defense of the rights of access to education. And in terms of the challenge to create those impact indicators or to produce a sustainability or a SEG assessment or a specific document, we understand we have a authorial way to understand that we have three different maturities on this process. The first one are the companies who have like a 1.0 mentality, who focus the production of this specific materials and info products as compliance or only legal obligations, with lack of influence on business and the culture of the institution, and with a limited and standardized management of knowledge on the company. The whole responsibility maintains only on the relationship with investors or the sustainability area to co-create these products. The second way to understand those mindsets are the companies who have a more articulated knowledge management with other areas involved on the process, with different formats to visualizing those impacts and to create a better and a more authorial narrative about their agendas, and a more comprehensible strategic message for broader audiences between the investors and the regulators too. but we love to help companies or institutions with a 3.0 mentality or culture, because they have the desire for sharing more impact data with more innovative way. They already understand what are the major stakeholders that they want to engage, and they prioritize their social and environmental issues to create a more timeline approach and to understand the legacy of the agendas that they're dealing with. So in the next slide, Letícia going to present the Odd, and we can talk a little bit what we're co-creating as a solution on this collaboration. So
Perfect. Thank you. So for those of us who joined us now, Vinicius just presented Decah, and now I'm going to present Odd. We are just launching our partnership and working together. So Odd.Studio is a company that's both Brazilian and Spanish. And we work with data transformation and data reimagination, working with crafting data stories, generating and creating data insights, data exploration tools, actionable information, data-driven solutions. And for many years, we've worked closely with scientific translation. If we were to say it in a few words, we work both from strategy to analysis, exploration, visualization, from data research discoveries, complex concepts. But what we wish to do at the end of the day is to drive action, decisions, inspiration, and start conversations. We are divided into 3 segments. The first one is more related to how we can make better use of data. Oops, there's a D there that got out. No, how? The second one is how we work with education. So this came as upskilling and reskilling, because a lot of our projects, we realized that most of our clients wanted to understand how they could continue doing the work that we were doing. So we were, why not just create a product for that? So we work a lot with supporting clients understand more how they can apply better data visualization, data storytelling techniques. And then the third one, which is one of the reasons why we came to Europe, is because we wanted to be closer to how we could think of different ways on prototyping and studying the future of data interaction. And I think that this project specifically and this area specifically is one of the ways and one of the areas that we can implement that. And I'm going to get to why in a second. We have worked with clients globally for a long time, and we are focusing on sustainability, but we have been working with social impact, education, digital transformation, and health for a while now, as I said, with scientific translation specifically. So there are many examples of interactive things we've done in the past. They range from data storytelling techniques or scrollytelling techniques to dashboards. And I have a ton of examples that I can send to you that range from working with the Amazon data to working with health data that are really specific, or even like sometimes performance data from inside companies of projects that we cannot show, unfortunately, because of the bunch of NDAs we have signed. But at the end of the day, as I said, I think that what we want is to create products that last and things that are used. So here are a few of the examples of these projects that I was showing. It can go from being something digital to being something like an app that you have on your phone. And what we like to do is try to push the limits of creativity. And I think that specifically when Vinny said, let's make something together, we were like, yeah, absolutely. There's a lot to reinvent and a lot to be done within the ESG and sustainability environment. So we combined forces, understanding the side that we have on information design, data visualization, how we can understand our users with the experience that Decah brings on assessing and certifying for sustainability indexes, but also into like turning this project, and most specifically on how we can turn projects and initiatives into integrated impact. So one of the things we started doing 6 months ago was studying sustainability data and sustainability reporting. And we realized throughout this process that it's not really clear through the means that we have been doing this and on what's the real impact that has been generated by companies. So one of the things we've seen, and we've talked to many companies now, specifically some in Brazil and some in Europe, is that there's a lot of effort only to collect and organize the data throughout the year. And sometimes that effort has to start all over again the next year. So by default, we understand that the sustainability report, which we understand that can be one more report within the seas of reports that we have been seeing out there, is actually more of a protocol and a status quo than actually an effort to communicate all of the actions that the company has been doing in the next year. So once they finish reporting and once they finish that, they have to start a whole new one. And they don't really have an opportunity to strategically think about all of the effort that has been put and where they are looking into the future. So this is where Decah comes in. They are really good at supporting the company to strategically thinking about where they want their efforts to be and what is it that they're going to tackle within all of the sustainability development goals. But at the end, the output of all of that is usually a report. And these solutions are both static, they have no or little possibility of correction or update. Sometimes if you put something out there and it's incorrect, it's not going to count for your grade at the end. We believe that the story sometimes can be lost in the content and lost in the mission and the vision and all of those like institutional things. And the complexity of the work is more measured by the amount of slides you have than really what's the message that's behind or what's the actual impact that was generated. So if you don't know Natura is one of the biggest companies in the world on health and on beauty. But they are one of the biggest bee impact companies as well that we have in Latin America and in the world. So just to give you an example, they bought Avon, they bought what's the name of that one that we have a lot of stores? Body Shop, yes. So they are really, really, really big. And they are one of the examples that people usually give when they talk about BIA assessment or B Corps, especially in Latin America. But they usually generate really bad outputs on, and I'm criticizing them loudly here, on how they communicate those efforts. So this is the example of what they put out this year. And it's basically a report animated. It's just information. It doesn't really tell anything. They were able to actually reduce the amount of information that they showed. But again, it's just another report. And as a data visualization geek person, if you know me, you know I really love data viz. And if anyone here also does that, there are a lot of mistakes in this only slide where they show data, which is they are comparing things that are not comparable, and they're using charts that are not starting in the same baseline. So for example, all of this here are the same information, but this is 2.7 billion and this is 3 billion, and it's not comparable. This is bigger than this, and they don't have the same baseline. So the only slide where they actually have a data viz in it, it's incorrect if you think about it. And that, for me, is one of the issues with that, is that usually what they do is they hire an agency, a communication agency that's really good at communicating, making ads and things like that, but doesn't know how to communicate impact. So that is one of the problems that I see with this type of communication. And also one of the reasons is that I believe that there are things that should be communicated in different ways for different audiences. So for each one of them, there's a different purpose and also a different solution that can be proposed. So if you're only looking to certify yourself, you don't need more than a table. Honestly, the person that's going to certify is going to look specifically for that number. So you don't need a whole report that's been designed incredibly just for that number. Secondly, when you're talking to investors or board members, maybe there are other ways that you could do it. You could talk about more the generated effort that you had, the progress that was made, and the end goal. So looking at timeline views and maybe a materiality matrix, which is something that shows what are the strategic investments that the company is going to be making and where the effort is going to be put, is more than enough. We don't need other fancy things to communicate to investors or to board members. And when we're talking to other areas and the general population, then we can talk about how far we've come. but what is in it for them? Like, what is in it for me as a consumer if Natura is doing better or worse? And that is not clear at all in their reports or in the way that they communicate anything. So just to give you a few examples of good things, and this is not an extensive list, it's just some of the examples that we've seen. This is the Apple report that came out this year, and I think they got it a little bit more right than the other reports I've seen out there, which is there's like a highlight of it, then there's like the progress, we're doing this, this is good, this is bad, and this is our journey. This is what it looks like. But when I'm talking about the data, they only have tables, and that's it, because I'm trying to assess and I'm trying to get assessed by all of this information. I don't need to know exactly the end line of how many of this or that it costs for me as a consumer. That doesn't concern me. And then finally, if you haven't seen it, I suggest you do, but when you're talking about to the general public or when you're talking to other people out there, in 5 minutes and with a video, you can answer more than anything else. So they made a huge statement by, of course, hiring amazing Octavia Spencer. You don't need to spend all of that money. If you don't have billions to do it, that's okay. But they made a really good job, even talking about the bad things and the negotiation process behind it in only 5 minutes. And that is putting a good message out there, in my opinion. But if we're talking about more about talking about companies that are a little bit more grounded in that sense, that cannot hire Octavia Spencer, I would like to give you the example of Oatly, which is a company that is focused on vegetable and more sustainable milk producing, and they have been doing their sustainability report since 2018 or 2017. And what I like about it, I only found a picture of it because they did a physical one, but they actually, in the folder, they had like a spoiler in the cover of it. They had a spoiler that said that it was slightly worse than last year. And I like that kind of like transparency. You don't even need to get into it to know what is happening. And then this year they were like, OMG, it's actually better this time. So this playing around with words and being really transparent and just giving the main information that you need is what the consumer needs, right? We don't need more than that. We just need to know, well, did you do your job? Are you working towards making things better? And if you want the full written in detail, legally correct language, you can click here and you're gonna go for it. If not, if you scroll, and this is like a lateral horizontal scroll, you're going to only find a few highlights of what they have done in the past. So we also wanted to bring here the idea that maybe this doesn't need to be a report at all. What if this was something a little bit more interactive? What if it could be updated instead of something that we have to do all over again? So this is a project that we have done that it's like also a scrollytelling technique, that some of the data in it can be updated, that some of the visualizations are interactive. So this is another way that you could do it. It could also be looked at from the SDG point of view. So for example, this is the Atlas of Sustainable Development Goals. It won multiple DataViz awards. But what I like about this is that it shows the whole scenario, the entire scenario, but at the same time, it explains little by little the information for the user, and it explores all of the 17 SDGs here. So this is another way that it could be more sustainable, is that if I have the same metrics and the same information that I'm showing year in and year out, why am I not using the same information, right? When we're talking about digital also has an impact. And if my report is not thought of as something that consumes energy, that consumes times and resources, maybe I'm not considering the whole journey or the entire chain of events of my ESG journey. And then finally, this is another example. This was done by Nadi Bremer, if you know her. And what I like about this is that this is the UNESCO's cultural heritage archive. But actually, you could definitely talk about sustainability in this issue, which is like, can I give a bird's eye view? of all of the different interactions and all of the different ways in which actors are connected. And if I click on that action specifically, I can learn more. So this is a way for us to get a sense of the big picture, but at the same time to zoom in and learn more about each individual action. And finally, what if it were an experience or a physicalization? I don't need to do only reports, I can do other things as well. We are now studying how we can do wearable sustainability issues. So this is a project that we started at Odd. It's called Braids. And it's just a way of us to think of how we can start conversations around sustainability. And we have been studying how we can work with data from like what is the impact of climate emergency on mammals, what is the impact on corals and things like that. And we have been turning them into t-shirts so people could buy them, and even maybe we can donate after the profits for other NGOs that we support. So these are some of the examples of projects that we're going to be launching in August, but it's a way of us to think of how we can maybe wear even the data from our sustainability report. And finally, here's some art-inspired work. These are works from Tizalotti, and this one here is something that we collaborated with her. She's a UK-based Italian artist that works with data sonification specifically. And we kept thinking of, what if I turn this into something that can last longer and all of my efforts are shown in a different way? Because is it really important for the client or for the consumer at the end to know exactly the number? Maybe not. Maybe what they need to know is more, is it going up? Is it going down? And what is the message behind it? And why not? We can even discuss if this could be something that could be used at events to talk about the efforts of the company and communicate it in different ways with expositions or experiences, for example, as this one here, which I think is from Kirel Benzi, which is a French database artist. And why not? This is a project from Superdot, which is a company from Switzerland, yes, which they have worked with AR and VR. So we can go all the way to technology, like why be stuck on a report if you could go all the way out? And I believe we have challenges here that are not just for big companies and big corporations. This challenge is gonna come no matter the size of the company. So I don't know, Vini, if you wanna comment on that a little bit.
Sure, independently on the size of the institution, on the possibilities you can start your journey to gathering and storytelling what you're doing with your impact agendas, we can help you. We can help you to understand and organize your evidence to create authentic impact thesis and how you can make this storytelling about it. If you're a medium company, we can help you to adaptate to the new parameters and understanding which are the assessments are the best on your profile, on your achievements. And for the big ones, if the law and the regulation are gonna add in more challenges to make yourself telling about your evidences, you have to think about how you can tell this history in a more thorough and authentic way of doing, because all the open companies are going to do it. So besides the info product that everyone's going to produce, how we can tell these histories on the more innovative way could be a help that you can have from Decah and Odd too.
Perfect. And also one of the things we have been doing is mapping all of the different assessments in each of the different ways that you can be certified in, not just BIA, as we call it in Brazil, or as a B Corp, for example. And that is mostly like mapping all of the different standards and all of the different variables that are needed for each one of them. But also one of the things we have been doing is mapping different reports, not just the one we showed you, of different ways that this can be communicated, because we understand that reporting is important anyway. So we know that that is something that will have to be done. But we're also here to creatively think about other ways that this can be shown. So the idea for us and why we asked you to come here today, and this is going to be the first of different other projects that we are launching. We're also launching a workshop where we can think about this, is how can we go from just the sustainability report to actually communicating with data, but having your words speak louder and becoming a reputable and impactful brand. So we wanted to invite you to help us answer what are the challenges that you see, and if anyone wants to share, ask questions, and to just discuss possibilities moving forward. I'm going to stop recording now and stop sharing so we can all talk about this more.